You ever just have one of those days where you're like, is this reality? Like, is this what we're really, really doing? Is this what America has become? The corruption in the first administration is only dwarfed by the just relentless, grotesque, obscene corruption in this administration. I want you to think about the fact that Hillary Clinton, when Secretary of State, and I've talked about this before in the Danielle Moodie show, had to return a necklace that she was gifted from one of the countries that she visited because Republicans were in an uproar about it. A necklace. Donald Trump's administration just accepted a $400 million jumbo jet, and no one is batting a fucking eyelash. The obscenity of this administration, I'm starting to believe, is the absolute point. Welcome to the Danielle Moodie Show, dear friends. Happy Wednesday. We've made it halfway through the week. Let's dive in. When we get to Wednesday, I'm grateful, right? I'm grateful that we're here and that we're all here together. But why does it feel like we've already had 16 weeks in one and it's only been 3 days? And I have to remind myself that the pace of destruction, the pace of the grift is the point, right? And it is to overwhelm, to flood the zone. But at the same time, my fucking God. So, where do we begin today? Because there was just so much. South African president apologizes for not bribing Trump. Let's first off, the New Republic posted that he apologizes. He was not apologizing. He was throwing fucking shade. Okay. And you need to know the difference. But South African President Cyril Ramaphosa joked about not having a private jet to give Donald Trump. And in response, Donald Trump said, if you had it, I would take it. And during this obscene and ridiculous meeting that they had, Donald Trump decided to school a man that grew up in apartheid South Africa about apartheid by actually celebrating and elevating Afrikaners. Like, when I tell you that this administration has jumped the fucking shark, like, this is the kind of shit that I mean. Donald Trump, holding up a picture and displaying a video, says, look, here's the burial sites all over the place. These are all the white farmers that are being buried. Donald Trump said during today's White House meeting with South Africa's president, except there was one thing that was an issue. The image he was holding up, however, is from the Democratic Republic of Congo, not South Africa. But I guess to Donald Trump, all these African nations, these quote unquote shithole countries, as he referred to them in his first term, are just all the same. Needless to say, my co-host of Democracy-ish just laid it out when he said South African President Cyril Ramaphosa to Trump, I'm sorry, I don't have a plane to give you. Amazing. And we say that it's amazing because otherwise, folks, I don't know. I don't know. I never thought, look, we've had presidents that were idiots, right? Like, we lived through the Bush years. You know, the man that dodged a shoe being thrown at his head. You know, one that couldn't get a complete sentence out with a flashlight and some assistance if he tried. So we know, stupid. It's not to say that America has always had the most intellectually astute people leading the country, but I'd like to say that at least outwardly, we didn't have fucking grifters and lowlives running the country. That at least we had some sense of decorum, some sense of humility, some sense of class. I mean, just to use a basic word, just some type of fucking class. None of which Donald Trump or anyone inside of this administration has. And so, again, the president of South Africa came to the United States, sat in the Oval Office, and said to the president, "Sorry, I don't have a plane to give you." And Donald Trump's response was, "If you did, I'd take it." What a piece of shit. I mean, there's nothing else to say about that. Remember how earlier in the week I shared Donald Trump stating that he wanted a major investigation into his enemies, namely Taylor Swift, Beyonce, Bruce Springsteen, you know, real music superstars and celebrities, when he can only get Kid Rock and, I don't know, the guy from Fonzie, whatever, you know? So Donald Trump hates that he's not popular, right? He hates that people hate him because he's small and petty and weak and stupid. And people with sense don't want to surround themselves with someone like that. But Scott Baio, thank you, Wisdom. Fonzie, right? No, that wasn't Fonzie. That's another show. But Scott Baio, yes, that one. Charles in Charge. Got it. Okay, different show. Nonetheless, Donald Trump apparently has found a way to investigate, I guess, his people. So the people he hates. Department of Justice official has a bizarre plan to punish Trump's enemies. So what Chachi, thank you. Siabonga, thank you. So a DOJ official looking for a way to punish President Trump's enemies when there isn't enough evidence to prosecute them thinks he's finally found a workaround. State-sponsored cancel culture. Ed Martin, who is this gentleman, Ed Martin, he doesn't look really like he is part of the Trump fold, but I'm sure in a few weeks he will have gotten some Botox, maybe dyed the gray out of his hair, and maybe now look like, I don't know, a character from Avatar, because that's how they all are seemingly starting to look now. It's terrifying. But Ed Martin, the newly appointed head of the Justice Department, get this, guys, Weaponization Working Group, told reporters how he plans to go after those he thinks are guilty. Quote, "If they can be charged, we'll charge them," said Martin, whose term as interim U.S. Attorney for D.C. came to an end recently. "But if they can't be charged, we will name them. And we will name them, and in culture that respects shame, they should be they should be people that are ashamed." I just want to read that again. So this head of a made up department, the Weaponization Working Group, which sounds like something out of Star Wars, says that if they can be charged, we'll charge them with what? The crime of not liking Donald Trump? The crime of exercising your right to free speech? The crime of not bowing and kissing the ring of Donald Trump in the way that you have? The crime of believing that idiots shouldn't be running the country and saying so? But if they can't be charged, so they've committed no crime, we will name them. And we will name them. And in the culture that respects shame, they should be people that are ashamed. Folks, these motherfuckers aren't ashamed of shit. Like, I wish that we were a culture that believed in shame. I wish that these were people that weren't sociopaths and had the ability to feel shame. Shame would do Donald Trump and his administration well. But they have none. So do you think that Donald Trump naming Bruce Springsteen as an enemy of his is going to shame Bruce Springsteen? Or do you think it's just going to elevate his profile even more? Do you think that calling out Taylor Swift and saying that you think she's ugly is going to shame Taylor Swift into loving you and performing at Mar-a-Lago? I don't fucking think so. They are so petty. Like, it's just, like, honestly, they act as if we have no real issues and problems because this is the type of shit that they want to pay attention to. Like, this man, Ed Martin, has left his post as an attorney, so he's going to lead up some made-up working group, the weaponization group, because they want to weaponize the Department of Justice against innocent people, all for the hard crime of hating Donald Trump. I mean, watch out, folks, because they come for the boss. They gonna come for you too. Okay? So, and then they write here, but Martin's plan flies in the face of the Department of Justice's mission to prosecute crimes rather than individuals, and seemingly violates department rules requiring, quote, fair, even-handed investigations that protect the privacy and reputation of uncharged subjects. I think that we have abandoned the principles of the Department of Justice when we named Pam Bondi and her little diamond cleavage cross as the head of the Department of Justice. Just saying. But speaking of fraud, guess what America did today? Yes, the U.S. formally accepts luxury jet from Qatar for Trump. The Air Force has been asked to figure out a way to upgrade it so it can be put into use as a new Air Force One for the president. The Secretary of Defense has accepted a Boeing 747 from Qatar in accordance with all federal rules and regulations. Let's stop right there. Hillary Clinton needed to return a necklace from a foreign government. Donald Trump just accepted a fucking plane. And we think that that was in accordance with federal rules and regulations? What rules and regulations? Also, just so you know, the fucking upgrade that they're talking about is coming from your tax dollars. Yeah, that's right. It's going to take years and probably tens of millions of dollars in order to upgrade this plane, this private luxury jet, into a working Air Force One. Because guess what? Air Force One isn't just a luxury jet. It is the flying White House, okay? It has to be secure. But who cares about security when you have luxury, right? The Department of Defense will work to ensure proper security measures and functional mission requirements. I say, I don't give a fuck how secure it is. How about that? I really don't care. The plane, which industry executives estimated is worth about $200 million, will require extensive work before it can be considered secure enough to carry Trump, Pentagon officials have acknowledged in recent days. Any civilian aircraft will take significant modifications to do so. Based on the secretary's direction, we are postured and we are off looking at that right now, what it's going to take for that particular aircraft. Such a good use of the Air Force's time. I am so glad that while war is popping up all around the world, that this is what the Air Force is spending our time and our resources on. And yes, Brian, I will say this, the plane is the Trojan horse. Yep, it is. Unreal. But this is where we are. This is where we find ourselves. And so it got me thinking today, because it isn't just Donald Trump's corruption that is sending me on one today. It's the faux resistance of some of our Democratic leaders that have me wanting to scream. This next story came out while I was doing a live with Wajahat over on Substack, which, by the way, if you are interested in our analysis of Andor Season 1, it is up now on the Damn Digest. So go and check that out. As many of you were bullying me to watch this show, which, by the way, loved. Nonetheless, are you ready for this next story? Senator Cory Booker. So, a few weeks ago, we were singing Cory Booker's praises because he took direct action in the face of tyranny, or so we thought. He stood for 25 and a half hours talking about the tyranny, the fascism, the oppression of this administration, that we needed to take action, that we could not continue to do business as normal, that we needed to disrupt, we needed to fight, we needed to speak out. He stood there, and then profiles were done of him and saying, this is what John Lewis meant when he said we need good trouble. And we said we need more members like Senator Cory Booker who are putting their bodies on the line for justice. My, how things change in just a few short weeks. Because what did Cory Booker do? Why did Cory Booker vote to confirm Jared Kushner's dad? Cory Booker promised to stand up to Trump, but he and convicted felon Charles Kushner go way back. Senator Cory Booker broke from the Democratic Party to confirm he was the only Democrat in the Senate, the only Democrat in the Senate to vote to confirm this convicted fucking felon. How in God's, just walk with me for a moment. How in God's name do you stand up for 25 and a half hours to show the American people that in this moment of fascism, in this moment in the rise of the broligarchy and autocracy where money talks, that the people still have power? And you thought that you were going to vote for Jared Kushner's daddy to be a fucking ambassador and think that what? Democrats, progressives were just going to look the other way. And then I said to myself, what kind of dirt does Jared Kushner's daddy have on Cory Booker? And you realize, unfortunately, you don't need dirt. You just need money. And this is why people say, fuck both parties, because they both suckle from the tit of capitalism and billionaires. They're both courting the same fucking people and at the same goddamn cocktail parties. Except the one is going to call you the N-word to your face. The other one is just going to be a full-fledged obstacle to your right to justice. They're just going to tell you to wait. Now is not the time. Just wait. When the other one tells you, oh, hell no, to your face, you know who you're dealing with. But the Democratic establishment will just say, no, we're your friend. But now is not the time. So you understand, dear friends, why people choose not to vote. They choose not to vote because when we look at shit like this, where in one breath you can utter words like resistance and progress and equity and justice, there were so many people that were saying, you know what? All Cory Booker is doing is cosplay, right? All he is doing is a performance. And I said on this very show, I said, you know what? Politics is performance. You are tap dancing to get people to agree with your ideas, with your ideology, to decide to choose you as their representative. There is a performance involved in that. And at some point in time, we do need theatrics in order to awaken the masses. So I said, let Booker stand for 25 and a half hours. Let finally there be a disruption in mainstream corporate media's headlines about Donald Trump, and finally showcase somebody that is standing for the resistance. But then, Cory Booker makes the point for the dissenters. Why? Because Booker was the only Democrat to vote for Kushner's nomination. Kushner was convicted in 2005 for tax evasion, illegal campaign donations to the Democratic Party, and witness tampering. He even went so far as to retaliate against his sister, who was cooperating witness against him, by paying a sex worker to seduce her husband. Folks, if you got family like this, you might as well sleep with the fucking enemy. This son of a bitch paid a sex worker to seduce his sister's husband in retaliation. It's like straight out of All My Children, except it should be called All My Spawn, because these people surely derive from the devil. Nonetheless, he was sentenced to 2 years in jail and was pardoned by Trump at the end of 2020. Kushner admitted that he paid a private investigator $25,000 to arrange for the seduction and videotaping of the cooperating witness's husband. Kushner admitted to personally recruiting the prostitute and instructing that the videotape be mailed to the cooperating witness. The Department of Justice wrote back in 2005. This is the man Booker bent over backward to make the new ambassador to one of the most important European allies. It gets worse. Chris Christie, New Jersey's former Republican governor who investigated Charles Kushner as district attorney, described his case as, quote, one of the most loathsome, disgusting crimes he encountered. Now, we know that Chris Christie is no arbiter of truth and justice and was up on that stage tap dancing for Donald Trump as Donald Trump called him everything but a child of God, fat, ugly, whatever to his face. And he still took the licks and smiled all the way until he was finally kicked out of the administration. So when that piece of garbage is talking about this is the most loathsome, disgusting crime, I mean. So back to Cory Booker. Booker and the Kushners go way back, according to this reporting. Charles Kushner helped fund Booker's first failed mayoral campaign in 2002. And Booker came to his defense when he was convicted in 2005. He said this back then: Charlie has helped fuel my hope, as well as made me believe that even in the questionable world of New Jersey politics, there are still spirits who don't simply act in their self-interest. Booker wrote glowingly of Kushner before he was sentenced. For the love of fucking God. Booker maintained his relationship with the Kushners. In 2013, Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner hosted Booker at their home in a fundraising event that raised $41,000 for Booker. He defended this relationship in 2017, well after their unsurprising conservative turn. So, for those who want to say, well, he didn't really know who he was dealing with, he didn't really know what they were up to, he was defending the Kushners in 2017. And while he has stated, oh, I wouldn't take money from them now, you are, sir, a fucking liar. Because clearly, if you had had a change of heart from 2017, then you would not have been the lone Democratic senator to vote for this man. The fact is, he didn't need your vote. He's going to become ambassador regardless. So why, Senator Cory Booker, did you just ruin your progressive resistance street cred in order to push through a fucking felon who blackmailed his own sister in the most disgusting manner to save his ass. I tell you, I entitled the show today, America on the Brink, Corruption Under Trump, but the fact of the matter is, the corruption abounds. And it isn't just Republicans. They're just more in your face about it because they're like, who gonna check me? But they all are swimming in the same fucking cesspool and telling us to come in that the water is great. We want to know why this country hasn't made the kinds of progressive leaps that it should have, particularly when Democrats have been in charge. It's because of the deals that they make, the deals that are made on our backs so that they can keep being shown the money, so that they can keep the donor class happy. All the while standing up for 25 and a half hours and lying right to our faces. Disappointed isn't the word. It's more like disgusted. And for me, there is nothing that Cory Booker could do moving forward that would wipe the taste out of my mouth that I have right now. But as we close out today, let us close out with some good news. So here is the good news. Mayor Ras Baraka, mayor of Newark, who you remember a couple of weeks ago, arrested by ICE for having the audacity to, want to go into a detention center in his jurisdiction to see how the detainees are being treated and what the facility actually looks like in his jurisdiction. When ICE told him to back up, go back to the other side of the barricades, he did. But they didn't stop their pursuit of him. They wanted to make an example of him and of the other members of Congress who happen to be there as well, one of whom charges have also been brought up against. But today, judge dismisses Baraka charges, reprimands prosecutors. Prosecutors had announced the decision to drop trespassing charges against the mayor earlier this week. Interim U.S. Attorney for New Jersey, Alina Habba, announced earlier this week she would drop charges against Baraka, but at the same time announced new charges against Representative LaMonica McIver, stemming from a scuffle during Baraka's arrest. Federal magistrate Judge Andre Espinoza reprimanded the federal prosecutors for more than 5 minutes, calling the retraction of the charges, quote, embarrassing. The hasty arrest of Newark Mayor Ras Baraka followed swiftly by the dismissal of these trespassing charges a mere 13 days later, suggests a worrying misstep by your office, Espinoza said. An arrest, particularly of a public figure, is not a preliminary investigative tool. It is a severe action carrying significant reputational and personal consequences, and it should only be undertaken after a thorough, dispassionate evaluation of credible evidence. Thank you Judge Espinosa for reading Haba and that administration for fucking filth. Like I said, everybody engages in political theater. They wanted to have a show of force against Mayor Ras Baraka and the Congress people that were there. They wanted to show them who was in charge and that they owned these detainees. They had jurisdiction and they alone had the power. They knew that they had nothing to hold Baraka on. They weren't going to trial. This is the type of shit mobsters and dictators do to quell dissent, because it signals for the rest of us, oh my God, if you can arrest a mayor, if you can arrest a judge like they've done in Wisconsin, if you can bring charges against a congressperson, then what chance does little old me have? So I better keep my mouth shut and my head down. That's the point. So, what is the lesson here? Those that show themselves to be our representatives, but then go ahead and vote for the very people whose lives and livelihood has been to destroy equity, justice, they're not our friends. I look at Cory Booker now like I'm looking at everybody else inside of the Trump administration. Everyone else that is given a pass. Plenty of people who we think are on our side are taking money and direction from other folks, all to cover their own asses at the expense of our freedom. Pay attention, because the enemy of my enemy is not always my friend. There are people that are walking amongst us who say that they have our back. And when they say that, it is to put a knife in it. So all I have to say, dear friends, is that do not rely on the representatives, on the senators, on whomever to speak on your behalf. Speak up for yourself. Because at the end of the day, as it turns out, we all we got. That is it for me today, dear friends, on the Danielle Moodie Show. If you have not hit like, share, or commented, please do, and help feed the algorithm fairies. And if you have not subscribed to this channel, dear friends, subscribe. Hit the little bell so that you never miss an episode. I thank you so much for those that have offered donations today. Every single dollar goes a long way in helping me create the kind of content that you all need and frankly deserve. So I appreciate every single one of you and the donations that you gave today. And dear friends, I have 2 incredible episodes up on Substack Live right now. One, Waj and I did our analysis of Andor Season 1, and that is up right now. And as well as a fantastic conversation The conversation I look to every single week, look forward to every single week, is the check-in that I do on Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern with Jared Yates Sexton. That conversation is also up right now on Friends, the Damn Digest. And if you have not subscribe to the Damn Digest, please do consider subscribing. I'm doing really great shows over there and putting out content. And if you're looking for an opportunity to support me on a monthly basis, you can become a paid subscriber over there. But remember, I keep all of my content free because I believe that democracy dies behind a paywall. And I will never put things exclusively behind a paywall because information should be free. That is it for me today here, friends, on the Danielle Moodie Show. As always, power to the people and to all the people power. Get woke, stay sane, and in these extraordinarily dangerous times, dear friends, do stay safe. I will see you back here tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern. Be well.